Hello everyone, welcome to my video presentation. In this video, I will tackle the purposes of public speaking and the basics in speech preparation. Before I formally start the presentation, let us first identify the lesson objectives. After the presentation, students will be able to identify the purpose of public speaking. Students will be able to classify the basics in speech preparation, and students will be able to apply the concepts learned in crafting speeches. Now that we already know the objectives of this presentation, let us now start with the presentation proper. What do you think of when you hear the word purpose? Technically speaking, a purpose can be defined as why something exists, how we use an object, or why we make something. For the purposes of public speaking, all three can be applicable. For example, when we talk about a speech purpose, we can question why a specific speech was given. We can question how we are supposed to use the information within a speech. And we can question why we are personally creating a speech. For this part of the presentation, we are more interested in the last aspect of the definition of the word purpose, why we give speeches. The first general purpose of speeches is to inform. Simply put, this is about helping audience members acquire information that they do not already possess. Audience members can then use this information to understand something. For example, speech on a new technology, or speech on a new virus, or to perform a new task or improve their skills. For example, how to swing a golf club or how to assemble a layer cake. The most important characteristic of informative topics is that the goal is to gain knowledge. Notice that the goal is not to encourage people to use that knowledge in any specific way. When a speaker starts encouraging people to use knowledge in a specific way, he or she is no longer informing but is persuading. Let's look at a real example of how an individual can accidentally go from informing to persuading. Let's say you are assigned to inform an audience about a new vaccination program. In an informative speech, the purpose of the speech is to explain to your audience what the program is and how it works. If, however, you start encouraging your audience to participate in the vaccination program, you are no longer informing them about the program but rather persuading them to become involved in the program. One of the most common mistakes people make is to blur the line between informing and persuading. Now, why do we share knowledge? Knowledge sharing is the process of delivering information, skills, or expertise in some form to people who could benefit from it. In fact, understanding and exchanging knowledge is so important that an entire field of study called knowledge management has been created to help people become more effective at harnessing and exchanging knowledge. In the professional world, sharing knowledge is becoming increasingly important. Every year, millions of people attend some kind of knowledge sharing conference or convention in hopes of learning new information or skills that will help them in their personal or professional lives. People are motivated to share their knowledge with other people for a variety of reasons. For some, the personal sense of achievement or of responsibility drives them to share their knowledge. Others are driven to share knowledge because of the desire for recognition or the possibility of job enhancement. Knowledge sharing is an important part of every society, so learning how to deliver informative speeches is a valuable skill. Moving on, the second general purpose people can have for speaking is to persuade. When we speak to persuade, we attempt to get listeners to embrace a point of view or to adopt a behavior that they would not have done otherwise. A persuasive speech can be distinguished from an informative speech by the fact that it includes a call for action for the audience to make some change in their behavior or thinking. Why do we persuade? The reasons behind persuasive speech fall into two main categories, which we will call pure persuasion and manipulative persuasion. Pure persuasion occurs when a speaker urges listeners to engage in a specific behavior or change a point of view because the speaker truly believes that the change is in the best interest of the audience members. For example, you may decide to give a speech on the importance of practicing good oral hygiene because you truly believe that oral hygiene is important and that bad oral hygiene can lead to a range of physical, social, and psychological problems. In this case, the speaker has no ulterior or hidden motive. Manipulative persuasion, on the other hand, occurs when a speaker urges listeners to engage in a specific behavior or change a point of view by misleading them, often to fulfill an ulterior motive beyond the face value of the persuasive attempt. We call this form of persuasion manipulative because the speaker is not being honest about the real purpose for attempting to persuade the audience. Ultimately, this form of persuasion is perceived as highly dishonest when audience members discover the ulterior motive. For example, suppose a physician who also owns a large amount of stock in a pharmaceutical company is asked to speak before a group of other physicians about a specific disease. Instead of informing the group about the disease, the doctor spends the bulk of his time attempting to persuade the audience that the drug his company manufactures is the best treatment for that specific disease. Obviously, the key question for persuasion is the speaker's intent. Is the speaker attempting to persuade the audience because of a sincere belief in the benefits of a certain behavior or point of view? Or is the speaker using all possible means, including distorting the truth, to persuade the audience because he or she will derive personal benefits from their adopting a certain behavior or point of view? Unless your speech assignment specifically calls for a speech of manipulative persuasion, the usual understanding of a persuasive speech assignment is that you should use the pure form of persuasion. The final general purpose people can have for public speaking is to entertain, whereas information and persuasive speech making is focused on the end result of the speech process. Entertainment speaking is focused on the theme and occasion of the speech. An entertaining speech can be either informative or persuasive at its root, but the context or theme of the speech requires speakers to think about the speech primarily in terms of audience enjoyment. Why do we entertain? Entertaining speeches are very common in everyday life. The fundamental goal of an entertaining speech is audience enjoyment, which can come in a variety of forms. Entertaining speeches can be funny or serious. Overall, entertaining speeches are not designed to give an audience a deep understanding of life, but instead to function as a way to divert an audience from their day-to-day lives for a short period of time. This is not to say that an entertaining speech cannot have real content that is highly informative or persuasive, but its goal is primarily about the entertaining aspects of the speech and not focused on the informative or persuasive quality of the speech. Now that we know the purposes of speeches, Let us now move on to the basics of speech preparation. The first one is to know your audience. Whether you are presenting a paper or giving a speech, you need to analyze your audience first and foremost. It is easy to alienate an audience by not examining the characteristics of the group, what they know, and what they want to know. Be aware of the audience's attitudes and beliefs in general toward you and the topic. Consider age, socio-economic status, and educational level. For example, if you are addressing a veteran group of administrators on a management topic, covering the basics of management would undoubtedly be boring and possibly insulting. There are numerous other factors crucial to analyzing an audience, but the time spent on this background check is necessary for the success of your presentation. The second one is know the occasion. As you scrutinize the audience, think carefully about the occasion. Are you a keynote speaker, presenting a paper, introducing a speaker, or chairing a panel? Each situation is different and requires preparation tailored to the occasion. Occasion analysis includes looking at room size, the arrangement of space, and the acoustics. For example, if you are given 15 minutes, then prepare your speech or presentation accordingly. Also, make sure your message matches the occasion. It would be inappropriate, for example, to speak about a serious topic at a happy event. Third, select a topic. Selecting a topic can sometimes occur first, stemming from the audience and occasion, as in the case of a paper being accepted for a conference. If you need to pick a topic, however, be sure it is in one that is interesting to you. It is also a good idea to be a little more knowledgeable about the subject than your audience. But interest is crucial. If you do not have enthusiasm for the subject matter, neither will your audience. Fourth, select a purpose. For this step, determine the general purpose of your speech for presentation. Are you informing, presenting, or entertaining? Beyond the general purpose, decide on a specific purpose. What do you want your audience to specifically think or do? It is helpful at this stage to write down the central idea or thesis statement of your talk as well. Fifth, gather potential content. If you are presenting a paper, you have already done this step. If not, this is the research phase where you gather information through printed sources, interviews, discussion with others, and your own expertise. Sixth, gather more content than actually used. Sort through your material, choosing only the strongest and best material for your talk. This step allows you the luxury of editing and, if need be, recognizing any information gaps that need to be filled. Seventh, organize content. The importance of this step cannot be stressed enough. For both speeches and paper presentations, many presenters do not realize that presenting a paper does not mean the paper is read, word for word, at breakneck speed. Rather, the information has to be recast for the new medium. Don't be bound by the flow of your paper. This means organize your ideas based on the audience, occasion, and purpose of your presentation. Eighth, phrase the speech. The previous steps involved preparing the message. Now you are ready to work on delivering the message. Usually, a type of delivery most appropriate is the extemporaneous delivery. With extemporaneous speaking, you are thoroughly prepared and practiced, but the exact wording of the speech is determined at the time you actually speak the words. You want to avoid memorizing your talk. Instead, know your key ideas and translate them into words as you speak. This means you have to think about what you are saying as you are speaking. Each time you practice, you may say your speech a little bit differently, but this allows flexibility and a chance to adapt to your audience if needed. Speaking extemporaneously can be difficult to achieve at first, but this style of delivery creates spontaneity, which can affect the receptivity of your audience to you and your ideas. Ninth, prepare visual aids. Visual aids, if appropriate for your speech or presentation, can help your audience remember your points and clarify information. Speech textbooks usually emphasize the following when covering visual aids. First, make sure the audience can see the visual aid. Second, show the visual aid only when you are referring to it, and talk to the audience, not to the visual aid. Also, practice with a visual aid. Using visual aids can add to the length of a talk and can cause you to become flustered if you run into difficulties. Additionally, if you have audience handouts, distribute them at the end of your talk if possible. An audience attention can shift easily to a handout instead of staying focused on you. 10th, practice, practice, practice. Practicing your presentation or speech contributes directly to your success as a speaker. As you practice, consider both your verbal and non-verbal delivery. Vocal delivery includes volume, rate, and pitch. Strive for vocal variety, which is the variation of these elements: loudness, softness, fastness, and slowness. An expressive voice will engage an audience. A monotonous, flat voice will lose one. Also remember that non-verbal delivery carries as much weight as verbal. Eye contact with your audience is crucial, and this means actually looking at audience members. Hamilton Gregory says to look at the audience 95% of the time in a friendly, sincere way, using the other 5% of the time to look at your notes. As for posture, don't slouch and avoid shifting your weight from foot to foot. And that's it. I hope you learned something useful. If you have questions, don't hesitate to use the comment section. Until next time, thank you for watching.